that's why I want to jump on. So just a couple of things. What Jack's saying there, I mean, you get into poker mostly. Most of you got into poker as an enjoyment thing. You stumbled across the game, watching videos, or you've seen it on the internet somewhere, and you liked the game. It was the love of the game that drew you in. Okay, and poker is just a sensational game. Let's be honest. This game is just so fucking good. It's got all of the right elements of competitiveness and intelligence and luck that make it such a riveting game. It's everybody's covered. Like, gamblers are covered because there's that excitement, luck element to the game. Intellectuals are covered because you can go ridiculously deep in the solvers. Competition-wise, this is one of the most competitive games on the planet. And so this game is sensational and it draws you in, okay? But anything, as my dad always warned me when I said I'm going to go full-time playing poker and I'll play all the fucking time because I love this game, and he was like, son, play is what you want to do and work is what you have to do. And he said, and as soon as it becomes something you have to do, it becomes work, and that love will diminish and you won't feel as motivated as you do right now. Yeah, fuck off, Dad. But
yeah. Well, when you're in that motivated state of mind, you're just like, dude, I can do anything. Don't.
This guy, these fucking boomers. This boomer guy. Turns out, I mean, my dad, my dad is quite a wise sage, I think, and he knows me better than I know myself because I'm so similar to him. And he's always been self-employed, and he saw the trap I was falling into, and he forewarned me. He was right. So you get drawn in because you love the game, and the game is magnificent. And then it becomes something that you have to do, and all of a sudden the motivation dies. It's like, I love Mario Party on the Switch, right? Me and Isla play it sometimes, Jack. Love that game. Fun as fuck. If I had to play Mario Party 7 hours a night every night, I would become bored of it within a week. No questions.
Faster. I mean, you'd be like, shit, this isn't good. But then you don't have a strong reason as to why you're playing that, right? Like, it doesn't benefit you in any way.
It doesn't, and that's the difference. So like Jack said about investing, I mean, the truth is, most people will fall under the same category here, is that poker is a vehicle that you can sort of use to transport yourself away from the 9-to-5 life that we've created, which I think most poker players would say they dread. Most poker players would say they don't want to work for someone, they don't want to boss, they don't want to have to be at work at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 and beg for time off. Like, the freedom that you get with poker is amazing, but also the potential future gains. If you can get some money, as Jack said, put it in investments. The great thing about poker as well is that poker investing and investing are so interlinked. The skills that make you good at poker generally will lend themselves at least somewhat to investing, although I'm with Jack, ETFs, index funds, I don't fuck around with stocks. But you can get ahead of the game, you can get some money in the markets, and then not only do you not have to work now, but the chances are that you get to retire a lot earlier as well. So you're going to be financially secure, and you have to work a lot less. You're going to have to work fewer hours generally over your lifetime to make X amount of money than your average person who works 9 to 5 is generally going to. My friends who don't work, who aren't poker players, they all work in the real world for, relatively modest salaries. If we're being completely honest, the cost of living is extortionate because they all live in London. And they don't really have much money to put away in the markets. And nor do they really have any desire to do so because they don't really understand nor invest any time in it. So poker gives you a lot of freedom, and it gives you the opportunity of financial freedom now and in the future by investing your money. And most of you will fall under those categories. Now, in order to take advantage of those two things, you need to increase your volume, as this whole video is about. And we've already established here that motivation and inspiration as well. And what Jack said, you'll probably feel motivated after watching this video to go play a load of volume. The truth is, you might not feel motivated, you probably feel inspired because you listen to guys talking about it and you're like all jacked up and, oh my God, I'm so inspired to go, and you play 12 hours for 3 days and then you're burnt out and you don't play for 3 days. That inspiration will evaporate really quickly and it's not sustainable. So first, the three books I want to talk about that you should at least read the blinks or watch a synopsis of. Number one, The Motivation Myth. Really familiarize yourself with the reason, familiarize yourself with the principle that motivation is finite and is not sustainable and you can't rely on it. Point number two we talked about was the one thing. And the one thing is a book about making one single priority. It's the idea that you can't have priorities, but the word priority in and of itself just means one singular thing. So prioritize one thing, and what we suggest would be prioritize playing poker. So set an amount of hours that you want to play per day and everything else has to work around that instead. What a lot of poker players fall into, they fall into the trap of, I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours a day, I'm going to study for 2 hours a day, I'll grind for 5 hours a day. And what happens is that those are their priorities. And usually the other ones, because poker is usually something you do later on in the day for most of you, your other priorities will eat into your time and your energy, and you'll end up playing less poker. Poker will be the thing that suffers. My suggestion, make playing poker your one thing, okay? You will find time to go to the gym. You will find time to study, but you should set an amount of hours that you want to play and how many days per week, and just do them. The whole Shia LaBeouf, just do it. Yeah. Whether you feel like it, whether you don't feel like it, if you're tired or alert or you're B gaming or C gaming, just set those hours, okay? The third book that we'll bring into the mix is one that comes up all the time because it is such a classic, Atomic Habits by James Clear, okay? There is a lot of conflicting information about how long it takes to form a habit, from anywhere from 60 days to 6 months. There's lots of different different evidence to support different timeframes. But the point is this, is that you want to form habits not because you want to, but because you think that they'll be beneficial to your life. And you, again, bringing motivation into the mix, motivation is not going to help you form the habits. What's going to form the habits is simply forming the habit. That means just doing it regardless of how you feel, day in, day out. Before you know it, that is just your habit, and you will just do it. It's not something like, I might play poker today, or I feel like playing poker today. It's just, I'm going to play poker today. That's it. One of Jack's favorite things is not, I want to do it. I think I can do it. Any of that shit. No, just I do it. That's it. Take away all of the subjective words from it. It's just something that you do. And for me, the biggest change would be setting the hours that I was going to play. So what I used to do in my former life, where I couldn't hit 100 hours a month, was I would get to my computer at some time in the evening and I would sit down and play until I didn't feel like playing anymore, and then I would leave. And didn't feel like playing would often mean the point that I got too tilted to carry on, being quite honest with you, right? And I would quit, and it was so detrimental. So I said, okay, I'm going to play 9 till 3 every single night. I moved my grind station into my living room, okay? And then there was no fucking excuses. I couldn't sit and watch TV with my wife all night long because the computer was right there staring at me. And I was like, okay. So I made it logistically more difficult to avoid it. It's not necessarily that I made it more logistically easy to grind. I made it more difficult to avoid. By having it in the living room, it's ever present. It's looming. And so I know once 9 o'clock hits, if I'm not at the table, my computer's in the room, I'm like feeling that pressure to go and work. And that pressure is pretty good because it makes me, oh, I'm about to raise my hand. No, thanks. Mm-hmm. It makes me get up and go grind. Just quite frankly, Jack, and I'm sure you feel the same way, when 9 o'clock comes around every single day, I'm like this, oh, fuck, like, I've got to go to work. Like, I never go like, 9 o'clock, let's get it, come on. Like, no, it's grinding. It's not like I'm playing any special events. It's the same games that I play every single night. I don't say I feel like it. I don't say I don't feel like it. I just get up and I go turn the computer on, and the rest just happens. And I very, very rarely fall short of 150 hours per month. So I would say I'm a reformed lazy grinder. And I can resonate with a lot of the people who say to us, I'm having volume problems. I'm having trouble getting to the tables. I'm having trouble staying at the tables. It's a question of separating logic and emotion. You really just need to override your emotional, or just basically override your feelings and just approach them with logic. I feel tired. Okay, well, I'll sleep better later. All I need, I've only got 2.5 hours left. Even if you need to take like a 5 to 10 minute break, fine, but make sure you get back to the tables. That's just it. Don't make it something that you have to do when you feel like doing. Just fucking go ahead and do it. If you had a real job, the truth is, in the real world, and some of us have been there, unfortunately, it's a horrible place. Jack, you've been there. You worked at TGI Fridays, right?
All kinds of different jobs. Retail. I worked at a TJ Maxx where I was making like $7 per hour, you know. So I was working at TJ Maxx for I had like 10 different jobs for poker, actually, like all kinds of, you know, random shit. But
all horrible, right?
for the most part, I mean, when I
unfulfilling.
worked at a restaurant, I quite enjoyed it just because like I was working with people my own age and stuff. But everything else, yeah, I didn't like. You know, if I had to wake up in the morning, I didn't like it. My restaurant job was fine because I went at like 4 p.m. or whatever. But
Sure.
so it was kind of cool. But I want to touch on, you know, what you said, Scott, about you know, I don't know if you were exaggerating or not, but you were saying like, oh, when it's time for you to grind, you have like this like, oh, I gotta go grind. So I can't relate to that. I don't do that, but I'm also not doing what you the other end of the spectrum where you're like, yeah, let's get to the grind. I'm very neutral about it. I was like, oh, okay, 2
I would
p.m.
say
time,
I oscillate, but for the most part, like usually what I'm doing is I'm leaving like watching TV with my wife or like spending time with my kids. I'm usually doing something that honestly is more enjoyable,
more fulfilling. Yeah.
and so
Okay.
yeah.
So for me, like
Yeah.
I live on my own, so yeah, when it's time to grind, it's time to grind for me. I'm very neutral about it. I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, it's time to grind. Even maybe slightly positive. Never like, oh man, I gotta get to the grind. Like, I don't have that. But yeah, I'm fairly neutral about it. I get to the grind. But I do want to touch on one thing, one last thing before we do wrap this up. This specific video is going a little bit longer because it's such an important topic. You know, in general, we'll keep them like under 20 minutes, but this last thing I think has to be touched on. I think
We always say it.
we always say it. We always say it.
Favorable.
But like sometimes like the topic, you know, because we're not gonna have time to do two podcasts today anyway, so we'll just do this one. So the last thing I want to get to, which is something I know everyone can relate to if you're honest with yourself and aware of it, is to call yourself out on your own bullshit, your own excuses. Because anybody that plays low, there's always something. Oh, it's because, you know, I'm running bad at the tables. And then when you're running good, oh, it's because, you know, my third cousins are in town and I'm going to take the week off even though I'm going to see them like twice during the week. Oh, I'll start next month because of this, and that. You know, next month, the next half of the year, that's going to be, you know, that's where I'm going to put it's always something to push it that way. There's always an excuse. There's always something that you'll come up with. Your brain will always find a way to give you some bullshit. And this is something that I can relate to, not with poker, but with, you know,
life.
With life, but also like my fear of like when I had like I used to have a very strong fear of like public speaking, and I would like always make excuses. I don't want to go to Toastmasters. I'm not going to do improv classes. I was like, there's always something. Oh, I'll just do it next year. Like, what's the rut? Like, what's the rush? Like, there's always something there that I would just make an excuse until I was like, you know what, man? I am full of fucking shit. You know, I had to look at myself in the mirror. I am full of shit. I'm never going to get to this until I actually do it now. Like, literally take the action on it now and make that decision. These are the hours I'm going to play. I'm playing every single day. When I say every single day, like 5 to 6 days a week. I recommend 6. Some people can do 5. I don't recommend 7. I don't recommend anything less than 5. I think it's just too much slacking. 5 or 6 days per week, I think, you know, is a very solid grind. I think anywhere between 5 and 9 hours is very sustainable, depending on your life conditions. If you have like a family or something like that, obviously maybe on the lower end of the spectrum. If you're single and you live alone or whatever, maybe 9 hours should be extremely doable. I mean, I used to do like 12 hours per day, which is not very sustainable. I don't highly recommend it.
Not sustainable.
But if you wanted to do that for like a year or two and really go hard, you could. If you are a single person, if you got nothing else going on, you're going to take those emotional swings. It's going to be a little bit hectic. You could do that. I'm not recommending that. However, you know, I just want to make that clear. I'm not recommending that.
I would probably recommend something more manageable to begin with. Like if you're struggling to put consistent volume in, I wouldn't say set a high target of like, definitely don't set like 7 days, 8 hours a day. Don't even set like, you know, 4 hours, 8 hours a day. What I would say to really nail down the consistency, sorry, Jack, to interrupt you there, but I just feel this point is so important you were touching on, would be set goals that are realistic achievable. Like people always talk about when you set goals, make them attainable. You really don't want to fail. So even if you set a small target, and I would suggest this to anyone who really consistently suffers, set the days that you want to work. Between 5 and 6 would be my recommendation, okay? Set the days and start with like 3 to 4 hours, which is hard to fail. And that's what you really want to do is you want to make this an achievement process, not a failure process. It's not like you don't want to start out with failure and then try work your way towards achievement. You want to start with achievement and work your way towards failure. So you want to win at doing 3 hours a day, then you want to win at doing 4 hours a day, then you want to win at 5, and you will find your comfort zone that you can consistently work towards. But what you want to do is if you want to get to 7, for example, you want to fail at 6 and come back to 5 and keep going until you get over that hurdle. But if you start too high and you fail, you're straight back to 0. So try and do it in like levels. Think of it as like just leveling up, set yourself targets. Incremental.
Like
That's the word.
If you're playing like 2 hours per day, don't go off after this video and be like, I'm going to start playing 6 hours per day. Go to 3 first for a few weeks. See if you can do that. See how you feel. Audit how you're feeling. If you're playing 3 hours per day and you're still feeling kind of overwhelmed, don't push to 4. Just park there for a little bit. Maybe that's just where you're at right now, and that's okay. But what we see a lot is like some people are like, all right, I'm gonna play 160 hours this month, and then they play like 17. You know what I mean? So you don't want to get to that like where it's like every day you wake up and you're like, oh man, I gotta play 10 hours. You've taken it too far. All right, that's when you've definitely taken it too far. When you're like about to grind, you're like, shit, I gotta play 8 hours. Like, maybe cut it down an hour or two if that's how you're feeling. If you're dreading it in like a deep way, if you're a little bit uncomfortable before the grind, so be it. If you're dreading it or whatever, if you're just like, oh man, I really don't feel like playing today or tomorrow or any day for all these hours, that's a proper sign that you should probably cut down your hours a little bit at least, just to give yourself a little bit of a break. There's also a lot of other things you can do, to increase your volume that we'll talk about in future videos, like the reward system. And
I love the reward system.
Setting, your disciplines into place. But for now, I think it's an excellent start for anybody that, is having trouble getting those hours in. Really just sit down with yourself, ask yourself all these questions we talked about today. Why do I want to play more volume? Why am I trying to make money? Well, what's the point of this? And also focus on some of the detrimental side too, because that could be a fire in your ass as well. That was a fire in my ass, actually, when I first started. Actually, Scott, I don't know if I've ever told anybody that. The fire in my ass was like, I never want to go back to school or get like a 9-to-5 job ever again. And that was the fire in my ass. So it was more, I was looking more at the detrimental side. And also I realized immediately, I was like, this poker thing has no place on a resume. Okay, you're not. Yeah. You need to get ahead. You need to get ahead when you're playing poker. This thing has no merit on a resume. It can only hurt you. I would say for the most part, it's not gonna most people don't understand it. They just think you're degenerate. So really use the bad things about not making money, and then use the good things about making. Use both. Go to both sides. Think about why you want to make money, and also why you can't afford to not make money, so hit it from both angles and just push forward. And wow, it says on Zoom we got 1 minute and 45 seconds left in the meeting, so it's gonna
there's only one way that I think there's only one appropriate way to wrap up this video. I think you need to stand up and give it your best Shia LaBeouf. Just do it.
I'm not gonna do that. I can't replicate a Shia LaBeouf. I think anybody trying to replicate a show, it can never be done that way. That's like a one-time original. So anybody watching this,
it's magic.
Go to YouTube, Google Shia LaBeouf, just do it. Unfortunately, it's only going to give you motivation and nothing more than that. But it's a fun watch. So just watch that. But as far as long-term stuff, figure out your why, understand all the downsides of continuing to just live on this side, which is, month by month, just kind of swiggling by, playing just enough volume to pay the bills, just enough studying to slightly beat the games that you're playing. It's it's just not a good strategy to get ahead, really. You just need to be doing more. You know, with poker, you just always need to be doing more. But we can wrap it up right here since it's less than 1 minute left.
That's it.
So we'll wrap it up here. The next podcast we're going to be doing, we're not going to have obviously time for it today, but the next one, let's see what we got here. Oh, how to where is it? Just want to. Well, we might run out of time before I announce it. It's not going to be good, but it's right here. We're almost there. Yeah, the next one's going to be what to focus on when studying. So that's going to be the next one. All right, any last words, Scott, before we got like, I don't know how many seconds?
Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. That's it. That's it, guys. All right, take care.